All right, so this is a suggestion via Discord. The name of the video is Anti-Capitalists Suggest Inflation Isn't Real. Okay, this is coming from the channel Charlie Kirk. Let's check it out. Guys, what do you mean inflation isn't real? Are we not all, for the most part, experiencing all types of inflation, guys? Do you see your rent going up? Your property taxes going up? Because your property is also, in fact, inflating, specifically if you own it, right? The price is going up. What are you talking about, sir? Have you been to the grocery store lately? Bro, have you tried to hire someone to do some type of labor lately? Guys, what do you mean? What planet is he living in? I guess the one where you're going to vote for Kanye for president.
How do you feel about like the current state of the economy and this whole theory of like immaculate disinflation, if you're familiar with the term?
Say that again.
Immaculate disinflation?
Well, we're not living through that.
It's a solid college word, guys. He's right. We're not going through that.
Okay,
but
yeah.
Yes.
And where's your proof that we aren't exactly
happening?
Are you talking disinflation?
Yes.
That we actually we're not seeing a surge in prices?
No, disinflation means the inflation rate is decreasing over time.
Well, so there is some evidence to show that, for example, televisions, iPhones,
specific products. That's not an illustration of all inflation, though.
No, I was going to agree with you that.
Okay.
But if you just go to a grocery store, eggs are far more expensive than they were 2 years ago. You don't have to overthink it. I mean, the college degree here at this university, what is it per year, guys?
30,000.
How much?
That's without.
They've been
10 in state, 30,000 out of state. Yeah, 10 years ago, I bet it was 18,000 out of state, right? So
yes, but they've been trying to raise the Cal State tuition for quite some time, even before inflation spiked to its current levels or previous levels about a year ago. They've just been delaying it for quite some time. So
yeah,
it's not exactly.
We're living through a decades-long inflation surge, and the best evidence you could see it either in the artificial boosting of profit-earning ratios. Go ahead.
Even during like Trump's administration, inflation was actually quite low. So that's not
no, it was low then, but
true.
It's not low right now.
Yes, but why was it low then? Would you say?
Well, because we had economic growth, and we weren't borrowing $2 to $3 trillion a year.
We actually were. We were borrowing.
No, you weren't. We were borrowing one, and now we're doing like quadruple that, bro.
Quite a bit of money.
We were borrowing about $1 trillion a year.
Still
not
quite a bit.
It's
so
still crazy.
About triple that right now.
Yes.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
I mean, I think that's how the math works
so
out.
Triple in the in the law of big numbers is a big deal. So borrowing $800 billion, not excusable. Borrowing $2.5 trillion, morally reprehensible.
Morally, why exactly morally is there a distinction between 1 and 3 trillion? Very arbitrary.
Because everyone here is going to have to pay off that debt, and that dollar.
Bro, I would not call that number arbitrary, bro. I mean, I get it, but I'm trying to understand your thought process here, guys. But no, that number is not arbitrary.
That you think is going to have value is decreasing by the day.
Right.
Whether you're pro-choice or Democrat.
But inflation is something that's going to occur no matter what. Sorry.
Can I finish? Okay.
I apologize.
It's okay. Inflation is not a guaranteed human norm. That's not true, but I'll get to that in a second. Every single person here, it will be harder than ever for you to own a home. So inflation is immoral because you're going to enter into a housing market where everything costs 3 times as much in the housing market than it did a decade ago. You will not be able to afford a down payment, let alone even be able to build the capital necessary for other goods and services that you might want to build wealth. And you know who does benefit is your parents' generation and baby boomers that do own their assets, and you won't. And so, secondly, inflation is a choice. It's not built into the human experience.
It is a choice because we are, in fact, borrowing way too much yearly. I want to go back to actually a point he just made here just so I can catch it.
Afford a down payment.
You cannot afford a down payment. What's interesting is that we're starting to run into a lot of like financial scams, it feels like, almost, right? Like you used to go to a car dealership and finance a car. That car was going to be financed for roughly how long? 60 months. That was the overall high average, let's say. Now, bro, they're giving you 180 months in some places. Guys, right? What is that? Absolutely ridiculous here. And in terms of the down payment, there are now like a lot of like brokers who are trying to sell like 0 down. Like some of the banks are also trying to do the same thing. 0 down for a house. Bro, if you put 0 down for a house, you have nothing in it, right? Like you're walking into a pit. You don't own nothing in that house, bro. Right? You have to put that down payment down. That's like the rule, bro. Right? Now, for the longest, under FHA, you can kind of do a 3.5%, and that's what I do think that the average American is going to be able to kind of do, right? With enough saving, I think you can easily do 3.5, with enough saving for a long time. All right. Now, in terms of the industry standard 20%, That's gone, right? Every single person, for the most part, can probably get the rocket mortgage, like 1 or 0% thing that they have going on, and the FHA 3.5%. That 20% is basically gone. They're asking you to basically have $100,000 to $120,000 in cash, specifically if you're going for a median priced house at around $416,000, meaning that your household income is what? $116,000, right? In order to afford the house that's for sale right now, you need to have 20% and have a household income of $116,000, while the average American makes nowhere near that. And if you take out what the billionaires make from the average household income, you'll realize instantly it's around $30,000. The average household income, guys. So that's an issue.
Let alone even be able to build the capital necessary
True.
for other goods and services that
True.
you might want to build wealth. And you know who does benefit is your parents' generation and baby boomers,
True.
no offense,
Gen X.
that
True.
do own their assets and you won't. And so, secondly, inflation is a choice. It's not built into the human experience.
That's valid.
The human experience, sure, but the economic system, especially a capitalist economic system, it definitely is. How would you
it
try
depends
to
how you build a
achieve
central
0%
bank. Yeah,
inflation?
0% inflation?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't want 0% inflation.
So then it is built in,
Inflation.
and it is necessary. Even
No, I said I wouldn't want it.
Okay.
Moderate
0%.
inflation is good for money velocity and for growth.
Yes. Right.
But you need to manage that versus the growth rate, right? So
Yes.
this goes back to Milton Friedman's idea of the Chicago monetarism. You can laugh all you want.
Friedman? Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but what's so funny about Milton Friedman? The fact he's the greatest economist of the 20th century, or
Qualify. That's I don't know. I wouldn't say he's exactly that.
so you're more like a John
I respect your
John
opinion.
Maynard Keynes guy. So yeah.
Not necessarily.
Okay,
No.
but-
I just take a more broad approach than
Okay, so
specifically
we
Milton
don't
Friedman.
need to have a central bank. We do have a central bank.
Okay. Bold claim. I'll follow you though. I'll follow
You don't need to have a central
I
bank.
used to
That's not really that much of a bold claim, bro. We really don't need a central bank.
be very against the Federal Reserve as well.
Okay, I'm just saying you don't need to have one, but
Okay.
we choose to have one. The central bank has been overly politicized to try to stop, let's just say, natural economic cycles from occurring. Both administrations, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, have
Yeah, because they're outside of everything. Right?
leaned on the central bank to use cheap money as a way
Yeah.
to try to keep
Okay.
the good times flowing and the good times going.
Yeah.
And this is why you don't want cheap money. He's saying 0% growth, but that's wild, bro. What do you mean? Like, you understand that we had 0% interest rate. This has nothing to do with inflationary rate, but we had 0% or like 1 or 2% interest rate for a really long time after the crash in '08. Guys, a lot of people made a lot of money if they were able to purchase a house around that time within that interest rate. I am going to tell you right now, I'm not for the concept of lowering the interest rate to the point of 2, 3, 4% ever again. We never need to see that again. Sorry, guys. We should be staying at somewhere around 6, 7% to keep things moving.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's definitely for sure.
So we don't agree. Well, we don't disagree.
Yeah, but here's the other thing I would say.
I gotta say, your protesters are kind of weak here, guys. I
Aren't they?
expected more
Aren't
out of
they?
them, right?
They didn't seem to have the energy to get
I
all
know. I
front.
thought they'd have more, Yeah, I like it. Please keep going, yeah.
I will say though, going back to the mortgage rates, as you were saying, I would say that probably has a lot more to do with private equity buying up homes than the inflation rate.
Well, hold on. There's two parts to that. I'm not talking
Okay.
just about mortgage. Interest rates are up. I'm talking about just the asset price itself.
That too, I would say it's a lot more related to private equity buying up homes.
But why is private equity doing that? Because they have so much cheap money that we've put into the system, they don't know what to do with it. Now,
Right.
I think we could agree, actually, there should be laws against BlackRock coming in and buying single-family
Absolutely.
homes and
Absolutely.
renting them back. You should not be a society of renters. It's bad for society.
Yes.
So we can agree on that. I say
yes,
that as a
for sure.
conservative. It's bad for the human experience
Good,
and for
yeah.
generational flourishing. But when you open up the guzzle of cheap money, which we have done, especially
Yes.
post-COVID,
So-
there's a price to that. And the price is that your
yeah.
currency gets weaker.
Okay.
And we're seeing that right now.
Yes. So would you say that it was actually necessary in order to get out of the huge recession we experienced during the pandemic, to...
No, I think we should have just opened up the economy. We never should have locked down the country.
Okay.
So we never should have borrowed the $6 trillion. We never should have done the stimulus stuff. It
So-
hurt every single one of you. It increased suicide rates, depression, anxiety, fiscal problems, economic problems, political problems.
I could definitely agree with that to some extent. But would you say even in, say, 2009, lowering the interest rates to zero in that sense. Was that
Well, we didn't
necessary?
go to zero. We didn't.
Like
we went
1 or
down,
2.
believe it or
Okay.
not. We went to like 5%. COVID, we went to like near zero.
Yes.
But no, I have a contrarian view on 2008. I think we should have let
Go
the
ahead.
banks fail.
Ooh, okay.
And I think we should have. I think we actually should have allowed the market to solve it, not to
Okay.
have socialism for the rich. And
You know what? Yes.
I'll back that. I like that idea. Absolutely. No more bailouts, guys.
brutal capitalism for the working
I
class.
totally agree with that.
Okay, so
Totally agree with
I
that.
think that Wells Fargo, Goldman, I think that Lehman and the big banks that failed should have had to actually
Okay.
climb themselves out, or you destroyed a moral hazard,
Yeah.
is what you did, and 0 executives went to prison. I agree
Okay,
with Elizabeth
yeah.
Warren on this. None of these robber barons that did what they did in 08 served federal prison time. Meanwhile, and I will use a political statement to contrast it, grandmas that went into the Capitol on January 6th and took selfie videos are in federal prison. If you ask me who's a bigger threat to democracy, Wall Street executives that bankrupted our economy
Yeah.
in 2008
Oh,
are a
of
bigger
course.
threat to our
Of course.
country than people
Now-
that walked into the Capitol building and took a selfie.
Now let me ask you this. I don't know if my memory served me correctly, but who was? Did Steve Mnuchin serve under the Trump administration?
Yeah, he was from government sacks.
Did he serve under the
Oh,
Trump
this man said government sex.
administration?
That's right, yeah.
So why would Trump invite someone like that who should probably be in federal prison into his
yeah,
administration?
I have a lot of personnel disagreements. I love Trump, but I think
You
some
love
of-
Trump?
Love Trump.
Why would you love? Why would?
Do we love Trump, everybody?
So to ask a broader question,
Yes.
why would you love any politician? They have a job to do. Why be emotionally attached?
Valid.
He
that
happens
sense.
to, and I don't say this like lightly. I do have a friendship with him. I've gotten to know him over a couple
Okay,
years.
okay.
So, and I also
Disclosing bias. Okay.
100% biased. And
Good.
so I also think whether you hate him or love him, he's a once in 100 year.
But why would you hate him or love him? He just has a job to do.
Well,
right?
I also love what he did as country.
Okay.
As president for the country. So
Would you say though that you're probably more of a fiscal conservative?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I probably his borrowing was one of the two. So 3 things, if you want to just be full disclosure,
Yeah.
that I think President Trump could have done better, and I think he will do better. Fiscal deficit spending, okay?
Why do you think he will do better?
Let me get to all 3, okay?
Okay.
COVID and certain personnel choices, okay?
Okay.
Those are the 3 things, and
Okay.
and I could list 100 accomplishments. Those are 3 things I think that the first administration, that wasn't their best.
Yeah.
Why it could have been better? I think that he's got the world against him, and if he becomes president again, which the 50-50 shot he will, he's going to set the world on fire.
I would say he's a little bit too egotistical and emotional to really counter the world being against him. He seems to react a little too emotionally to these kinds of things.
I don't want to get too deep into it, but you're not gonna convince me on negative Trump stuff. So
Okay, interesting. So your mind isn't necessarily that open. Isn't this changed my mind?
you could try.
Okay.
I mean, you're not gonna.
But didn't you just say kind of up front that you're not
I mean,
really
I'm
gonna change
open-minded to
your
hear it. I'm
opinion?
just saying you're not going to change my mind on that kind
Okay.
of stuff.
Okay. So then, what is it that's leading you to think that Trump is going to have better decision making in this next term, specifically when it comes to borrowing? Because he is
Probably
going
out of
to.
necessity. I mean, I don't know, and honestly,
Okay.
there's little evidence except the fact that
Just a little intuition.
We're going to have a debt crisis, the likes of which the country's never seen, and he's going to have to address it. We need to have severe cuts in the federal budget. We need
Okay.
to quickly.
So would you say that the downgrading of America's credit rating is more related to our national debt or the inability to handle it in a mature way?
Oh, national debt. Listen, we have too much money on credit cards. There are too many people, and honestly, this is because of inflation. I mean, this guy may think that it's not the realest thing in the world, but in all actuality, the reason why our credit rating is dropping is because we are too deeply in debt. Right? Everyone is holding money on their credit cards. The average person that you encounter doesn't have more than $1,000 to reach for if an emergency happens because of inflation. Right? America as a nation just cannot afford it. The people, specifically, the government doesn't care. They spend money all day long on nonsense.
More both, but more just the debt itself is.
Okay.
I mean, we now owe
crippling.
more than we're worth as a country. So
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
get to other questions because you had
Okay.
some time. But final
Perfect.
question. I want to be respectful, but
So I guess if you think that that's an issue that we have more debt than say our current income?
Well, we do.
Well, yeah, but if you would
just
say
the value of the country.
Of course,
yeah.
of course, we control our own currency, and our currency is
Yeah, are you a
the
modern
number one
monetary theory
reserve
guy? So
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, so-
it's the number one reserve, so that gives us a lot of wiggle
so
room.
it's decreasing.
Not
It used to be
like
75% of the
fifties.
world's reserve currency status 20 years ago. Now it's 55%.
I would say
Do you know
a lot-
about BRICS? You know BRICS,
BRICS.
right? BRICS,
Yeah, I do.
BRICS is creating an alternative.
I think they're a paper
dollar.
tiger.
Okay.
Paper
I hope
tiger?
I actually hope you're right.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
believe
I
that
hope you're right.
India, China, South Africa, and Russia could ever
And Brazil, BRICS.
work together to create their own
I hope you're right.
unified currency.
I just hope we're not too prideful.
Definitely a paper tiger.
Thank you.
Okay, here's the thing. The last conversation was one that probably should have been first. In terms of the BRICS nations, we have Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These countries have a lot of issues with corruption. All right. And what he's saying here by calling him a paper tiger, it makes all the sense in the world, because how can these countries come together specifically to overthrow, let's say, the U.S. dollar? Listen, we have a fiat currency, and what they're attempting to do is buy up all the gold, silver, and overall precious metals from around the world, stockpile them, and then base their currency off of actually something tangible. Like we once had that. Right? Read the old dollar bills. You'll realize instantly. You bring the dollar to the bank to give you your gold. Now that's not the case, right? But what they're trying to do is actually do that thing. And the reason why they're doing it is because all of these nations are absolutely frightened that if they consistently keep the U.S. dollar as their main reserve or backup currency, what happened to Russia during the whole, Russia debacle that happened a couple of years ago, right, where they decided to go into another country, and then sanctions came out, and so all of these countries are now absolutely running scared here, guys. They're like, listen, if what happened to Russia happened, right, where we basically took the U.S. dollar from them, then why would we consistently stay under the U.S. dollar when we publicly occasionally have issues openly with the United States of America? Because of that, the BRICS nations are trying to make their own currency. That's what this is. This was a great conversation to have, and that just, unfortunately, it left before we could actually have the full-blown conversation kind of regarding it. Is it something of a paper tiger, as he's saying? We all hope that it is. Okay? I think any economist would sit here and hope that it is, but if it does happen, oh no, okay? Just literally, oh no. And just for a fact here, I do not keep any actual liquid asset in U.S. dollar. I do not. It's too fickle right now. I like the euro right now, but either way, I try to stay as far away, unfortunately, right now, in the U.S. dollar because of how just fickle it is, bro. And definitely don't keep nothing in your savings, specifically if your savings is not giving you like a solid APY or AIR. What's AIR? Just an interest rate, basically, right? Or put store money in like a high yield savings or something like that, guys. Right? I just would not personally leave money in the bank. I don't like it. It doesn't. It's losing more money. Put $100 in the bank, right? You're losing money every single day it sits in there, right? But either way, listen. You guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day. Thoroughly. Guys, before we go, are you guys subscribed to the other channels? Logical Movie Reviews with Mr. L. Boyd along with Mr. L. Boyd Music. Both are found in the description. Check it out.